Thank you very much. Wow, I really want to meet this Kevin Bruce. He sounds great. I forget sometimes that I actually have all that time under my belt. I joined on the web in 1998, where I think most of you were born. But yeah, the last 3 years I have spent as a designer, and that is actually very difficult because I love to code. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but I found as much passion in coding as I do in design. But when the guys called me up and said we need a designer who actually knows how to code, I was like, great, I'll design and code. And they said, no, we just want you to design. But I still get my hands wet, and I still like to keep up to date on what the technologies are out there. So let's go over the presentation. I think we already covered that. I'm a designer developer. I'm a co-founder of a company of 4 guys, and we are called Musketeers.me. It sounds rather impressive, a co-founder, but we're just 4 guys. So we put out a monthly magazine. We took over PHP Architect from Marco Dabini in 2013. And we have monthly magazines, we have books. We have 2 conferences a year. PHP World is coming up in November. So these are things that I design for. But from time to time, we do consulting work, and I also do some front-end development, mostly CSS and HTML. I do get my hands wet in Drupal, which is interesting. From a front-end point of view, it's rather convoluted, but from what I hear, so is the back end. But they have reasons for doing that. I have over 23 years in design and 12 years in web development. I actually was a full-time web developer for National Cancer Institute for about 18 months. That was my high point of the server-side development. So let's dig in. This is actually a talk. This is an extension of a talk that I gave in 2012 on HTML5. I don't know if you guys remember, in 2012, HTML5 was really hot. It was the new shiny. I don't think it's the new shiny anymore. I think it's actually the thing we work with from day to day, and we just got to remember why it's so awesome, because we work with it day to day. So let's get some historical context of why it's so awesome. Who remembers 1998 on the web? Okay, so I'm not the only old person in here. That's good. We had lots of dancing hamsters. We styled everything in tables. We could make tables sing with our shims. If you don't understand that, be glad. HTML3 was around at the time. Rollovers were awesome. Macromedia put out Dreamweaver 1.0 then, which made rollovers easier, and that's why every website had MM_rollover, I think it was, for a JavaScript function, because writing JavaScript at that time was insane. Pretty much every browser had their own flavor. There were some commonalities, but not very many. Animated GIFs, banners, the old history stuff. PHP 3 was released. Anybody still use print? Yeah. You really? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, 2000. I remember when Flash first came around. It was really actually pretty cool. We were all, as designers, could actually do everything we imagined. We hit the wall with animated GIFs, and Flash was something that really enabled us to a point that we should have been disabled. because we could do anything with it, so we did everything with it, whether it was usable or not. We coined the term flashturbation. I'm sorry for those who had delicate ears, but there is exactly a reason why there was a skip intro button. Every website had a flying logo coming in that you would just like, I just want to get to the content. And Flash brought some functionality, but it also brought some bad habits. PHP 4 was released, which was actually pretty cool, actually a lot cooler. I do remember having to put in .php3 as an extension because we were in transition for a lot of things. JavaScript is still a mess, and we all started using Echo. Okay, 2004, 2005, who remembers this year period? All right. Blogs were pretty cool. Ajax was the coolest thing because I remember going to Google Maps and dragging that map for minutes, going, how do they do this? It was magic. PHP 5 was released, and I don't even know what the heck I was doing there. 2008. Okay, jQuery was really released in 2005, but 2008 it was really kind of all over the place. Who remembers Scriptaculous? That was actually a very cool set of tools. It's just a JavaScript library. You could do some really quick and easy things, but it was kind of very limited. You can only do a few really quick and easy things. APIs were kind of the rage. Let's see. Air was an extension of Flash. It was the desktop version of Flash. This was actually, what is it? TweetDeck? Anybody have TweetDeck still? I gotta talk. TweetDeck was actually written in Adobe Air. So it was basically Flash on your desktop. It was awesome for Twitter because you could have all your different lists right then and there. But that was the landscape in 2008. Now, 2010, this was an interesting year because, as you can see here, Steve Jobs kind of, I don't know, kind of hated on Adobe because he had the iPhone out and they wouldn't play with him. So he championed HTML5, and he put out a nice little website that showed all the benefits of HTML5 and showed some gee whiz factors on it, and how he touted that Safari was HTML5 compliant. If you actually looked at the code for those things, for those examples, there was a lot of jerry-rigging, and it wasn't really HTML5 because it really couldn't support a lot of it. But it was the first nail in the coffin anyway. Flash is still around, but it's not what it was. Okay, so in 2012, that's when I gave the precursor to this talk, the new shiny HTML5, and it actually was embraced that year, not because of me, but because it was really so awesome. And Flash has continued to plummet as far as popularity. So where are we now? Let's see. Get a drink here. Hold on a second. Let's go over some semantics. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a few of the APIs just to show what's being supported and what isn't. And quite a few of these you probably use from day to day. Who actually works on the front end and who doesn't work on the front end in here? Wow, okay. Good, I feel a little bit better. So semantics are actually a very important thing on the web, mainly because we're developing machines and applications that need more meaningful tags for the content, mainly accessibility applications for the blind, for I guess, mostly the blind. But the readers, basically screen readers. And tags like article, section, nav, header, footer are actually better at giving meaning to the content that's it's containing, and it can help the reader give some hierarchy to the content. The semantic elements actually that are really kind of cool and important. Right here, I have the figure and figure caption. Now, these are things that did not exist in HTML4 or before. And it's something that gives you a little bit more fine-grained definition of your content. This is interesting. And that's the wrong button. There we go. And it's doing it again. There we go. So I find it interesting that they have a mark element just to highlight text. But I guess as far as semantics, that's very important too, because if you just put a span and a class on it, it doesn't mean anything to a screen reader. So a mark element actually tells a screen reader that this is important and this should be highlighted in a meaning rather than in just visuals. Audio and video tags. Who uses these on a regular basis? Okay. These are actually very cool because before there was no standard, pretty much. You had to use plugins to view certain content. So like if I had a WMV and my Mac couldn't support to read it, I was just out of luck, or I'd have to go to Microsoft and download the plugin. The way they wanted to do with this is that that gives you certain options to actually view the content with certain extensions. They're actually going towards a well, actually they've gone towards a standard for web, which I don't actually think is it's in here. I don't think that's OGG. What's a standard? Yeah, WebM. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that would be another source in here that it will give you an option. So the browser, what it does is it sees this video tag, and it has these source options, and it will choose what it can read. So basically, it's just a way to skirt around plugin issues. We'll go over the track later, but it's actually very cool. See, audio is pretty much the same way as video. This didn't seem important to me when I first read it. Who is familiar with iframes on a regular basis? Okay, we should be, because we've been using them since I've been on the web. This allows certain sandboxing to occur, and it allows same origin policy. It uses the same origin policy. It allows cross-domain communication to be achieved, which is something that we couldn't do before because we were bad people and they created a cross-domain policy. So it's a way to white hat or white box it, I guess it is. So your iframe can talk to your parent, and your parent can talk to your iframe safely. We'll go over some connectivity. Okay, WebSockets. This is something that I've never used, but it is it's basically streaming text. So it keeps the door open to the server so that it can basically send and receive information in packets without having to reload the page or call on AJAX. And this actually kind of works with it too. Server sent events is kind of the same way. It's kind of push services. So it pushes information to your browser without the browser having to ask. WebRTC is really actually exciting. Some of you have actually all of us have played around with certain elements of it with Google Hangouts. They use certain parts of it, but I don't think it's actually the full spec because I can actually view it in Safari just fine. As you can see, Facebook Messenger uses some of it as well. So offline functionality is actually pretty cool because it enables us to have basically an app for your phone or any other device that, or a device, your laptop that's at a hotel that has flaky Wi-Fi, and it works just fine. So some offline functionality that we have is storage capabilities that are on the client side. So there are a few different types. There's a DOM storage, and there's IndexedDB, which handles more of a database indexed type content. And this is really cool for me anyway as a designer is being able to access files that you upload to your browser. It doesn't actually upload to your server. You can use a regular standard file input, and it basically just keeps it at the browser level, and it can read your file. It can actually create thumbnails from an image that is without actually uploading to the server. It can detect sizes and do all sorts of really cool stuff. So this is actually fairly exciting for me. Also, if you notice, there's a drag and drop capability, and it did it again. That we've all used because it's actually fairly common now on the web. But I can tell you, as little as 4 years ago, that was something that we all wished we had. The ability to actually drag files onto your browser in multiple files to upload them without actually having to use an input button or even a submit button in some cases. And we've gone over this before, but this falls under multimedia as well. Okay, the track and WebVTT. Now this is good for accessibility as well because actually many of us have seen it on YouTube. It's the ability to create subtitles and what is that? Boy, I can't tell it. Basically, for if you're deaf, it's closed captioning. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm very nervous. So it's very cool to see in action. Linda uses it, lynda.com. And when the video is going, it has the closed caption next to it, and it'll highlight the text as they're actually being said. And that means there's some really fine grain time stamping going on. I'm sure they've automated it at some point or at some level. But that's actually fairly exciting because not only can you do just text and, text, you could actually create a slideshow. So you could, say, have a video of a speaker, and you could have a video of their slides or take pictures of their slides, and you could say, at this point on the video, he changed the slide, changed the picture next to him. So you can see the slides of the speaker right there. and I guarantee they'd be a lot more exciting than my slides. 2D and 3D graphics. This, of course, gets everyone excited. But mainly, I got excited when I heard about the canvas element, and I was like, this is really cool. And then I saw what you had to do to paint on the canvas, and I was like, that's really complex. But we have tools now that enable a designer to actually, I guess, export or create code with a GUI. But it's still not what I'd call user-friendly for any designer. But I guess that's why, as designers, we create storyboards, and we hand them off to you guys and say, make this happen. Whereupon you're like, thank you very much. Text API for Canvas. Well, this is basically just painting on the canvas as well, but it's using text and fonts to create it. This is the exciting stuff, and this, of course, gets me salivated as well, until I realize how much code goes into it as well. It is a huge amount of code. I've seen some of this. It's really exciting, though, because this is actually a little app you can do. It's a little game set from Google. I guess they're using the Google Maps and WebGL, and this thing spins around in the canvas. It's actually interactive. You can move your cursor around, and it will shift. So it's very much like genuine 3D. So very exciting. Now, this might not have been exciting to you guys, but as a designer, I really always wanted to have something scalable on the web because I got tired of PNGs, got tired of GIFs, that whenever you zoomed in, everything got pixelated. Scalable vector graphics actually helps completely eliminate that problem. And if you notice, if you go onto Bulgaria PHP's website and you do a inspect element on their logo, it is an SVG, and it is nothing but code. So they did it right. So they can scale up and scale down. It doesn't matter. It's not going to lose any. It's not going to degrade at all. Okay, web workers. This is something that I probably wouldn't use myself, mainly because I'm not into enterprise apps that require a lot of, processing power on the front end. But the idea with this is that it creates a JavaScript thread in the background that does not affect the page load or the page running. And the page can talk to it can spawn a web worker, talk to it. The web worker can run a process. It can talk back to the page, and then the page can actually display the results through the DOM. But the web worker cannot actually touch the DOM. History API. This is a short one. This is something that's, I guess, we've wanted. I never really used it, but usually a back button, Yeah, it is. It is very old, but it's actually part of the spec. See, HTML5 spec actually took a lot of old specs and incorporated in them, or it was actually that were never really implemented before they released it. But it's actually part of it. The content editable attribute, we've done this where you go to a website and you can basically edit the text right then and there. You click on the text and it basically becomes an input field essentially. And with the JavaScript, you can basically have on return submit, and it enables you. It's kind of like a wiki. Request animation frame. So this is, this is actually creates, it enables you to control animation within, canvas if you want to. So it's just a way to work with timelines and such. Full screen API, this is for basically anything that you want to create. What's for video? So we're replacing Flash video and the plugin videos, which all had these controls. So basically, these had to be rewritten into HTML5 to give us our controls back. And this is one of the controls, the full screen API. OK, this sounds exciting. This is another thing that Flash had to access your camera. A bit because we destroyed Flash, we don't have it anymore. And it turns out we really don't have it yet. I've actually did some testing with this, and so far as I could tell, Chrome was the only thing that worked for me on this one example. But it says Firefox 39 supports it. But yeah, it's still not there yet. OK, touch events. This is an interesting thing. Of course, it's great that Chrome has it, because Chrome is Android. Safari has limited support. Actually, Chrome has limited support as well on mobile. But Safari has limited support, no support on your desktop, which makes sense, because you're not going to be touching on a Mac, because we don't have that. Geolocation, we've all worked with this. This is actually fairly well adopted, as you can see. I'm sorry that if I didn't see this here. The icons here, they show you what level they were adopted. Internet Explorer 9 actually adopted this, which is actually pretty good. That shows you something. Device orientation. This is another thing that has a limited support on Safari mobile, which I don't get, because I would think that Safari, being iPhone's default, would have full support on this, but it doesn't. I think Steve just didn't want to have, Steve just wanted everybody to make apps. The pointer lock API. This is something that if you're creating any sort of web application that you were wanting to basically, like a first-person shooter or something, you didn't, if your mouse moved out of the area, it wouldn't basically screw up the game or the application you're actually creating. OK, box and text shadow. I think we've all done this. Anybody who's not used this? Thank you. Multiple backgrounds. This is something that I think most of us have used as well. It's actually something that was kind of a long time coming, too, because we were all used to it. We all kind of desired it. But I've used it once. Border images. I wouldn't use this, because that's ugly. Animation. This is actually pretty cool, and this has been around for a while too. And I was using this back in 2012, but I mean, just simple little transitions, animations that you didn't actually have to use JavaScript for, which I guess would help the load time, but it was pretty nice. This is actually very cool. Especially considering that we threw away tables. This is something that tables made it very easy to do. However, this actually has true text flow, because it is a single block element, and it enables you to split it up into however many columns you want, and it will do it evenly. It actually has the capability of setting your gutters as well. The support is somewhat limited. Actually, I saw a couple of examples that just the simple columns count did not work on Safari or Firefox, but it worked on Chrome. And I assume that it works on IE, so it says it does anyway. Okay, so we're done with the boring stuff. That is the HTML5 spec. And this is the somewhat interesting part. A lot of us have actually used a lot of these. And a lot of us have not used any of them. So, how many of you have not used jQuery? Wow. That's awesome. You need to go play with jQuery. All right, jQuery, it's kind of the workhorse now. I mean, it was really, really cool. I mean, back in 2005, this was heavy-hitting stuff, and it still kind of is. I still use it occasionally. It's a great library still. It's kind of heavy. It's not very light anymore, but it's a lot lighter than any of the others that were out at the time too. So, and you can minify everything too. So, Angular. Now, I have not actually worked with this, but I have actually done lots of tutorials with it, so I'm an expert. This is actually fairly easy to work with. Actually, I was working at the tutorial. I definitely suggest you play with it. It was actually born in 2009 as Get Angular. It was a commercial product. Misko Haveri, I should have practiced that name, who was one of the founders, one of the engineers who founded Get Angular. He used Get Angular. He rewrote an application. He reduced 17,000 lines of code to 1,000 lines. 6 months to develop the original application. It took 3 weeks using Get Angular. It was enough to convince Google to basically support it and make it open source. I know lots of developers that would swear by this, and I definitely think you should play with it. Now, here's the thing, though. It is in 1 point something, something, something. 2.0 is coming out, if it isn't already out. I don't even know what the date is. It is a significant rewrite. It's actually written in, you actually write in a different script, which I did not think to write down. TypeScript, thank you. It looked actually easier. It looked very fun. So I'm going to play with it. I'm actually made a promise to myself I'm going to actually use it when 2.0 comes out, just to play around with it. Backbone.js, who has used Backbone? Okay. Who really liked it? Okay, you're going to come up and talk then. I have not played with it. Here again, I have not played with any of the JavaScript frameworks personally, but I do lots of vouching. I have lots of developers that say Backbone is excellent. It was born in 2010, so it's been around the block, and it is well tested, and it's fairly lightweight. Now, Ember framework. Who has used Ember? Excellent. This is actually, I just heard about it recently, but it's been around for a while. Here again, like I said, I've been in design world, but Ember's roots go way back to 2007. It started its life as a Sprout Core MVC network, or framework, sorry. It was forked in 2011 by Yehuda Katz, who was a core contributor to the popular jQuery and Ruby on Rails projects. Let's see, some Ember users would be Zendesk, Groupon, and Yahoo. Actually, I actually heard that it was used in Apple's iTunes as well, which kind of surprised me. Okay, who uses CSS preprocessors on a regular basis? Okay. This is actually pretty cool. The first time I had heard about, we'll do it in actual historical context here. First time I had heard about the preprocessors, I was like, why? And then somebody showed me just the simple use of variables. And I can't tell you how many times that I've gone into a project where I have a style sheet that's this long, but I have like 3 colors that I work with regularly, a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary color. And they're, of course, salt and peppered through the whole CSS. And when they showed me variables and how I can basically set the 3 primary colors at the top, and then run the compiler, and it would populate through the entire CSS or style sheet, I was sold. So, I mean, of course, it doesn't stop there. You've got things like mix-ins, which are basically functions, and it enables you to do, importing style sheets, as well as, what is it? Yeah, I can't remember what it is. Okay, I think that covers it. Anyone help me here? What else does it do? Nesting, thank you, that was it. So, SAS was the second one, and from what I understand, it's the fairly the dominant one right now in the field. And I can understand looking at Les's syntax and looking at SAS's. SAS's, from a designer point of view, is a lot easier to read. The third one that we have is Stylus, which, after looking at it, I can see where they were wanting to go with it. They were wanting to simplify it by taking away brackets and uncluttering the code, taking away brackets and semicolons. And as I said, I've been a developer as well, and that grated me. I did not like that. I liked containment. I liked hierarchy. And looking at this code kind of makes me not like it so much. It's a Python thing. Oh, is it? That's why. Okay, so I've got there's a great comparison chart between the 3 that I've put on here as well. These slides will be uploaded, and there's actually quite a few good resources that will describe these things a lot better than I have. Just go over some simple website frameworks. I'm sure we've all worked with at least 2 of these. I know I have. Who's worked with Foundation? How did you like it? Yeah? Okay. So that's another thing that I promised myself I'm going to be doing, is working on using Foundation. Okay, we'll go through this quickly. Package managers. These are things that I have not used because I do not have these workflow systems put in. This is not in my workflow, let's put it this way. But I've actually seen it being done, and it's very, very cool. You can set up a recipe of packages that you need your application to have, and these package managers will go in and fetch them and make sure that they're in your code base. Workflow systems. It's more of the whole package, no pun intended. So it's who works with workflow systems? God, you guys are awesome. So these are actually very interesting. I actually had a developer show me how they did it as well. It's something you definitely need to look into. I mean, if you have a very complex project that requires lots of libraries and compiling, pre-processing files, then you definitely need to look into Yeoman especially. That's actually very, very cool. These are basically just stuff for designers because we can't do command line. But it's a way to compile your CSS, your pre-processed CSS. CodeKit is actually very good. I played around with it. It's something I'm going to be using myself. Here's a resources slide, and these are good resources to look at some of the things we touched on. And that is it.